Talk to anyone is the hard way, but how to make anyone charismatic on you is harder than talk to anyone. Here is the solution. This will help you.
Chapter 8. Hans's Horse Sense. How to make them say, "You've got horse sense." A horse, a very clever horse named Hans, inspires this next technique. Hans was owned by Herr von Osten, a Berliner, who had trained Hans to do simple arithmetic by tapping his right front hoof. So prodigious was Hans's ability that the horse's fame quickly spread throughout Europe in the early 1900s. He became known as Clever Hans, the counting horse. Herr von Osten taught Hans to do more than just add. Soon, the horse could subtract and divide. In time, Clever Hans even mastered the multiplication tables. The horse became quite a phenomenon. Without his owner uttering a single word, Hans could count out the size of his audience, tap the number wearing glasses, or respond to any counting question they asked him. Finally, Hans achieved the ultimate ability that separates man from animal: language. Hans learned the alphabet. By tapping out hoofbeats for each letter, he answered any question about anything humans had read in a newspaper or heard on the radio. He could even answer common questions about history, geography, and human biology. Hans made headlines and was the main topic of discussion at dinner parties throughout Europe. The human horse quickly attracted the attention of scientists, psychology professors, veterinarians, even cavalry officers. Naturally, they were skeptical, so they established an official commission to decide whether the horse was a case of clever trickery or equine genius. Whatever their suspicions, it was obvious to all: Hans was a very smart horse. Compared to other horses, Hans was a somebody. Cut to today. Why is it when you talk with certain individuals, you just know they are smarter than other people? That they are a somebody. Often they're not discussing highfalutin subjects or using long words. Nevertheless, everybody knows. People say, "She's smart as a whip. He doesn't miss a trick. She picks up on everything. He's got the right stuff. She's got horse sense." Which brings us back to Hans. The day of the big test arrived. Everyone was convinced it must be a trick orchestrated by Herr von Osten, Hans's owner. There was standing room only in the auditorium filled with scientists, reporters, clairvoyants, psychics, and horse lovers who eagerly awaited the answer. The canny commission members were confident this was the day they would expose Hans as chicanery because they, too, had a trick up their sleeves. They were going to bar von Osten from the hall and put his horse to the test all alone. When the crowd was assembled, they told von Osten he must leave the auditorium. The surprised owner departed, and Hans was stranded in an auditorium with a suspicious and anxious audience. The confident commission leader asked Hans the first mathematical question. He tapped out the right answer. A second. He got it right. Then a third. Then the language questions followed. He got them all right. The commission was befuddled. The critics were silenced. However, the public wasn't. With a great outcry, they insisted on a new commission. The world waited while once again the authorities gathered scientists, professors, veterinarians, cavalry officers, and reporters from around the world. Only after this second commission put Hans to the test did the truth about the clever horse come out. Commission number 2 started the inquiry perfunctorily with a simple addition problem. This time, however, instead of asking the question out loud for all to hear, one researcher whispered a number in Hans's ear, and a second researcher whispered another. Everyone expected Hans to quickly tap out the sum, but Hans remained dumb. Aha! The researchers revealed the truth to the waiting world. Can you guess what that was? Here's a hint. When the audience or researcher knew the answer, Hans did too. Now can you guess? People gave off very subtle body language signals the moment Hans's hoof gave the right number of taps. When Hans started tapping the answer to a question, the audience would show subtle signs of tension. Then, when Hans reached the right number, they responded by an expulsion of breath or slight relaxation of muscles. Hans had trained Hans to stop tapping at that point and therefore appeared to give the right answer. Hans was using the technique I call Hans's horse sense. He watched his audience's reactions very carefully and planned his responses accordingly. If a horse can do it, so can you. Have you ever been watching TV when the phone rings? Someone asks you to hit the mute button on the television so they can talk. Because there's no sound now, you watch the TV action more carefully. You see performers smiling, scowling, smirking, squinting, and scores of other expressions. You don't miss a bit of the story because just from their expressions, you can tell what they're thinking. Hans's horse sense is just that. Watching people, seeing how they're reacting, and then making your moves accordingly. Even while you're talking, keep your eyes on your listeners and watch how they're responding to what you're saying. Don't miss a trick. Are they smiling? Are they nodding? Are their palms up? They like what they're hearing. Are they frowning? Are they looking away? Are their knuckles clenched? Maybe they don't. Are they rubbing their necks? Are they stepping back? Are their feet pointing toward the door? Maybe they want to get away. You don't need a complete course in body language here. Already your life's experience has given you a good grounding in that. Most people know if their conversation partners step back or look away, they're not interested in what you're saying. When they think you're a pain in the neck, they rub theirs. When they feel superior to you, they staple their hands. We'll explore more body language specifics in technique number 77, eyeball selling. For the moment, all you need to do is tune to the silent channel being broadcast by the speaker. Technique 8, Hans's horse sense. Make it a habit to get on a dual track while talking. Express yourself, but keep a keen eye on how your listener is reacting to what you're saying. Then, plan your moves accordingly. If a horse can do it, so can a human. People will say you pick up on everything. You never miss a trick. You've got horse sense. You now have 8 techniques to help you come across as a confident, credible, and charismatic person who makes everyone he or she comes in contact with feel like a million. Let's explore one last technique in this section to put it all together and make sure you don't miss a beat.
Chapter 9. Watch the scene before you make the scene. How to make sure you don't miss a beat. You've seen professional skiing on television, right? The athlete at the top of the piste, every muscle primed and poised, waiting for the gun to propel him to ultimate victory. Look deeply into his eyes, and you'll see he is having an out-of-body experience. In his mind's eye, the skier is swooshing down the slope, zapping back and forth between the poles, and sliding across the finish line in faster time than the world thought possible. The athlete is visualizing. All athletes do it. Divers, runners, jumpers, javelin throwers, lugers, swimmers, skaters, acrobats. They visualize their magic before performing it. They see their own bodies bending, twisting, flipping, flying through the air. They hear the sound of the wind, the splash in the water, the whir of the javelin, the thud of its landing. They smell the grass, the cement, the pool, the dust. Before they move a muscle, professional athletes watch the whole movie, which, of course, ends in their own victory. Sports psychologists tell us visualization is not just for top-level competitive athletes. Studies show mental rehearsal helps weekend athletes sharpen their golf, their tennis, their running, whatever their favorite activity. Experts agree if you see the pictures, hear the sounds, and feel the movements of your body in your mind before you do the activity, the effect is powerful. 26 miles on my mattress? Psychological mumbo-jumbo? Absolutely not. I have a friend, Richard, who runs marathons. Once, several years ago, A scant 3 weeks before the big New York Marathon, an out-of-control car crashed into Richards and he was taken to the hospital. He was not badly injured. Nevertheless, his friends were sorry for him because being laid up 2 weeks in bed would naturally knock him out of the big event. What a surprise when, on that crisp November marathon morning in Central Park, Richard showed up in his little shorts and big running shoes. "Richard, are you crazy? You're in no shape to run. You've been in bed these past few weeks," we all cried out. "My body may have been in bed, but I've been running." "What?" we asked in unison. "Yep, every day. 26 miles, 385 yards, right there on my mattress." Richard explained that in his imagination, he saw himself traversing every step of the course. He saw the sights, heard the sounds, and felt the twitching movements in his muscles. He visualized himself racing in the marathon. Richard didn't do as well as he had the year before, but the miracle is he finished the marathon, without injury, without excessive fatigue. It was all due to visualization. Visualization works in just about any endeavor you apply it to, including being a terrific communicator. Visualization works best when you feel totally relaxed. Only when you have a calm state of mind can you get clear, vivid images. Do your visualization in the quiet of your home or car before leaving for the party, the convention, or the big deal meeting. See it all in your mind's eye ahead of time. Technique 9. Watch the scene before you make the scene. Rehearse being the super somebody you want to be ahead of time. See yourself walking around with hang-by-your-teeth posture, shaking hands, smiling the flooding smile, and making sticky eyes. Hear yourself chatting comfortably with everyone. Feel the pleasure of knowing you are in peak form and everyone is gravitating toward you. Visualize yourself a super somebody. Then it all happens automatically. You now have the skills necessary to get you started on the right foot with any new person in your life. Think of yourself in these first moments like a rocket taking off. When the folks at Cape Kennedy aim a spacecraft for the moon, a mistake in the millionth of a degree at the beginning, when the craft is still on the ground, means missing the moon by thousands of miles. Likewise, a tiny body language blooper at the outset of a relationship may mean you will never make a hit with that person. But with flooding smile, sticky eyes, epoxy eyes, hang by your teeth, big baby pivot, hello old friend, limit the fidget, Hans horse sense, and watch the scene before you make the scene, you'll be right on course to get whatever you eventually want from anybody, be it business, friendship, or love. We now move from the silent world to the spoken word.
Now, it end, guys. Thanks you for watching and listening.